What's up, nerds? Silver Slurpee. This whole comic nerd life, whatever you want to call it, is way better when you do it with friends and family and all that good stuff. So, without further ado, one of my best friends wants to talk a little bit about Matt Fraction Batman. He's going to be popping up on the channel a lot more. So is my brother. And yeah, Silver Slurpee universe is just going to grow a little bit. And they have some cool opinions and stuff. So, he's going to talk a little bit about Matt Fraction Batman.
Detective Comics, obviously. That's first appearance of Batman. And then you have Scott Snyder's #1. You have DC Rebirth #1, and then you have Matt Fraction's #1. And I'm sure there's #1 that we're missing, but there's only been a few in the 75, 80 years plus of Batman. So it's pretty monumental. And to put it in someone's hands like Matt Fraction, who not a lot of folks have heard of, but he's pretty successful and pretty well regarded in the comic writing community, is pretty cool. In terms of art, Jorge Jimenez is absolutely killing it. Every single piece I show to people, I'm just showing them panels, showing them clips, and they're just like, oh my gosh, he's an absolute stud. Him and Dan Mora and a few other artists in DC are just killing it right now, and gosh, it just really brings Batman to life. Another thing too is we always say that Batman is the world's greatest detective, and the way that Matt Fraction factors in at least one piece of technology, kind of like the Arkham Batman, right? That iteration, all of his tech and everything. I just really enjoy. At least every single issue, there's one piece of tech that ends up helping Batman in whatever mission that he's going through. So I'm just really enjoying the story, and the reason that this got brought up with Silver Slurpee is we were playing video games, him and I and his brother, and he was saying, "Are you enjoying Batman?" And I said, "You know what? I don't know if I am. First of all, I am. I'm loving it, but I have a problem with there being a new villain every single issue, right?" So the first couple issues, at least 1 and 2, are Mayor Vandal Savage, and then in issue 6, we're seeing Hugo Strange and his monsters. Issue 4 is the Minotaur, first released by Matt Fraction, first written by Matt Fraction. Super cool villain. But we're seeing all these different villains, and it seems like a villain of the week type thing. And that's not something that I'm used to. I'm used to continuity, at least a 6 to 9, issue arc that they end up turning in trades or whatever it is. But it's usually 1 or 2 different villains, right? Rather than a villain of the week type thing. And the more that I thought about it, it brought me back to Batman the Animated Series, right? When I'm watching that as a kid. And it was a different villain, different story every single week, right? And so theoretically, what he's done, and I don't know if Matt Fraction is doing this on purpose, but you don't have to read issue 1, 2, 3, or 4 to understand issue 5. Really, you can just jump in wherever you want. And I think that's a barrier to entry in comics right now. And I've had that conversation with a lot of people. They're like, I don't want to read Flash 65 because then I have to read Flash 1 through 64 just to understand it. But if you're going this route like Matt Fraction is doing, and obviously it's a small scale right now with only 6 issues at this point, you can just jump in, right? And that's financially, good for DC and whatever else. But also gets folks into the comic game without having to read so many different issues. Another thing too, I'd like to mention too is Batman by Matt Fraction #7 comes out in a couple weeks, I believe, from now. Is the Joker, right? They're reintroducing the Joker, kinda. From what I understand, it's the aftermath of DCKO, and he's basically in DC's back to tank, healing up from whatever ended up happening at the end of issue 5 in DCKO, and then they end up going into a origin story for the Joker, right? And we've seen this a few times, right? We've seen it in Killing Joke. We've seen it in a few other issues. And more recently, we've seen it in Absolute Batman Arc M, which came out a couple weeks ago, and I just absolutely love. Like, there hasn't been an issue of a comic book that I've read in the last 3 months, probably, that I have enjoyed as much as Absolute Batman Arc M. And Joker's origin and that sick, twisted, whatever that was going on with it. If you guys haven't read it, read it. It's freaking awesome. And I just feel like it's a little too recent to end up doing another Joker origin story. But obviously they have to capitalize financially on the Joker and everything else, and I totally get it. But that's really my only con and my only negative with Matt Fraction's Batman. And I'm sure once we end up reading it next week that it's going to be absolutely awesome. But that's really it. I mean, him and Dan Moore are just absolutely lighting it up. And I imagine when we end up going to Comic Con in 2026, that it's going to be a packed house, and it's just going to take so many people to get into that room and whatever else. So, just want to thank Silver Slurpee for having me, and hopefully I didn't ramble on too long to not be a guest in the future. Thanks, guys.